for me, when I see someone dancing and they're faking being hard or thug or whatever,
Mhm.
I'm looking at that funny because
Mhm.
we weren't faking it. We were actually about that.
That's how it goes. Fakers gotta go. Fakers gotta go. What? Check it. That's how it is. What?
How you
Okay.
been, man? You been okay?
Yeah, just shit. Fuck. I'm
There you go.
been busy traveling and doing
Yeah,
and staying busy. Nice to meet you.
nice to see you, man.
Yeah. So I do have to run into the city in a little while, so we should get right to it if that's
Yeah, I'm
okay.
already recording and everything, so it's easy. It's just we can do what just start up whenever. So I was thinking we
Oh,
just
hip
talk
hop,
about
man.
the yeah, man. We just talk about the culture,
Let's go
past,
for it.
present, future, and what we can do about it. That's about it.
Yeah, man. I'm
Yeah,
ready.
so I'm curious, man. Like, yeah. So anyway, there's so much I could go into right now, but like, what was it like back then? Because I know you guys are part of the people who you and your contemporaries basically created what we call a lot of newer generations will call foundation, right? They called it foundation, but or you popularized it at least, and
Well,
like,
okay, I'll answer. Go ahead, finish.
but
Sorry.
what my question is, at your time, what was the foundation then? Because there was no foundation. So what was what we call the foundation today, what they call the foundation now? What was the foundation then though for you?
Well, first, who would you consider my contemporaries?
Yeah, I don't know. Like this people like,
But
Rocksteady crew.
that spans decades because so
Yeah.
what you got to take into consider is what people know to be Rocksteady Crew
Mm,
as the originals
mm,
isn't the actual fact.
right.
Because if you look at Ken Swift, Doze, anyone else who you saw alongside of me, I'm the one who put them in rock
Yeah,
steady.
right, right.
So that means that I was down with a different group. My cousin and I were the
Right.
first, I'm sorry, we're the last ones to be down with the original squad of Rocksteady,
Right, right.
and that, I joined in 79, and then I put, wow, I think the end of 1980, or sometime around 1980, when I was given a no bullshit, the beginning of 1981.
Okay.
I was given a chapter of Rocksteady, and but at that time, I also had a chapter of Rockwell Association. When I bumped into the guys from Rocksteady and Jimmy D gave me the chapter, I flipped everyone from Rockwell Association to Rocksteady.
Right, right, right. Oh, nice.
So that whole squad, not one of them battled to get into Rocksteady.
You're just part of your clique. You brought him in, right?
Yeah, I just changed the name.
Yeah,
That's it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and
But what were you guys basing your moves on at the time? Because six step and backspin and chair freeze and all these
well,
things we know, swipe and all that. All these moves
well,
we know as basic moves. They weren't basic moves back then, right?
no, not at all.
So
I
so
mean,
what were
so
you
first of
what were your
all,
basic moves back then?
the basic move was a swipe,
Okay.
but
Yeah, because that came from jazz, right? That came
huh?
from jazz. That came from jazz, right? So
No, from B-Boy Spy. Yeah, here's the thing that you have to keep in mind when you're looking at that time period. We didn't have access to that kind of data
oh,
in
okay,
terms
yeah,
of
right.
what may have
That
existed
makes sense.
as the same move, but within a different context of another
Yeah.
art form. So can you look at a video from the 1920s and say, oh, look, they were breaking in Africa? But would those same people who were getting on the floor say that they were breaking and they were part of hip hop? Or
No.
would they say they were doing something different that was from their tribe or
Yeah,
whatever it was? You
that's right.
know?
You're right. Yeah. I see what you're
So so
contextual.
it's yeah, so it depends on the context. And um when it comes to moves like the swipe, that was spy, the six-step footwork, that was spy, the chair freeze, that was spy, Now spy is a contemporary of other people from before I even started dancing. And Spy's one person who would come in and say that he made up breaking.
Yeah, I mean, if you did all that, I wouldn't be surprised
Well, but here's
if you
the thing.
thought so.
Out of all the people that I have met who said that, Spy was the best one.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And here's the thing, but also Spy wasn't everywhere. And if you're looking at Soul Train, or if you're looking at James Brown, Prince, or Roberto Roena from Fania All Stars, and you see them getting down, you're gonna see elements of these things happening in life. Even a martial arts film, like people try to say martial arts had an impact on breaking, but in all reality, the person who start martial arts mimicking in hip hop and breaking was Frosty Freeze.
Frosty Freeze, yeah. You guys were close, right? You guys were really close,
so
right?
we would come out of like martial arts films, and Frosty was kind of a bully. He used to fuck with people a lot, He was a bully, he was the big brother, but he was a bully. So he would make believe he's doing drunken style or some other kind of style and hit somebody in the head, blah, blah, blah. And then
burning lots of burns.
1980 was when Frosty started doing kind of like this drunken style, fall back on his back, kip up, land on his back, kip up, land on his back.
Yeah, continuous kip up. Yeah.
Yeah, so
classic.
Frosty's the one who started that. And then the person who imitated him after that was maybe like Ken Swift, Kippy D, that's it really, because nobody was doing that at that time. So in terms of the evolution or what was foundation, I think everything was still experimental.
Yeah.
Because if you look at anyone who's trying to say, well, the hip hop started with these people in this year.
Yeah.
Follow-up question to that can be, how long did it take to create?
Right. Like it's not like that. It just happened organically, right? It happened on its own.
Yeah.
It was supposed to happen, I guess. I think the freedom of America and all these different cultures mixing together and new music and
it was just New York, really. It wasn't
New York, New York culture.
Unless you had family.
Got the New York shirt on this time. That's
I got my metal shirt on.
Oh,
still well. So even for me back then, growing up in hip hop meant the Bronx, little areas in Manhattan, portion of an area in Queens, Brooklyn, maybe. That was that. And if you're looking at like yourself being 12, 13 years old, that shit is a journey. Right. And you're talking about crossing dangerous territories of groups, gangs, crews, whatever. Right. So anyone who says that they can be absolute about the creation of hip hop as a whole, it doesn't make sense, because when you start cross-referencing flyers, dates, geography, ages, who they say was part of the crew, and then you have people who will say like, yeah, that person says I was down with him in 1970. Then you're like, oh, okay. And then you see, so there's a lot of bullshit out there that is embellished, and I would say romanticized and self-glorifying.
For sure. I mean, also like early days of internet, and all that. There was a lot of gossip around at that time when everyone started going to the internet for breaking. But I want to ask you, you made me think, what about like the dancing aspect, like the actual just dancing, like forget like, we're going off, we're like going out on the floor, we're doing shuffles, going crazy, we're flipping, we're doing whatever, we're sliding and all that, spinning, but freezing and all that. But I mean, what about the dance? Just like the dancing, like, we got top rock, we got up rock, but there's also other dancing too, and how that is all how does that play into it? That's what
you go to a jam, you dance the style that you would dance to if a disco record would come on, of like a song like Hot Shot by Karen Young, or Living It Up. Oh God, who made that song? Living it up. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And it has so it's like a disco funk song, but it has a break in it.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
there was a lot of social dance. And the thing
Right.
is that when the part of the jam came up, when the DJ would play several breaks, that was the only time you saw b-boys getting down. Otherwise, you were just dancing with a girl, trying to meet a
Right,
girl.
right, exactly. Yeah.
So it wasn't like you went to a jam, oh, we're gonna break all night. Nah, you went to the jam,
Exactly.
and if you didn't know how to dance with a girl,
Yeah.
you waited for the breaks to have your moment, and that was
Mm.
it.
And then you could get the girl.
Maybe, you know,
Maybe. Maybe.
I wasn't because I
If
was
you, yeah, she...
I was. So there was a dance called the Freak.
Yeah, I know about it. The Freak.
Yeah. Man, there was a dance called the Bus Stop, which eventually became it's like line dancing, the Electric Slide. The
Oh,
Electric Slide is the bus stop, just a different name.
is that kind of like that kind of thing? Or
No, it's that a group of people walking, doing the same steps, and blah blah blah, going backwards,
oh, like
forward, going
kind of
side,
like the
dip,
soul clap, like the
doing
soul
back.
clap stuff thing.
No,
A little bit different.
Look
That's
up,
Redman.
look up later on the bus stop. You
Okay,
know,
I'm gonna look that up because I don't know that one. I
it's a
do know a
dance.
lot of dances, but I don't know
That
that
was
one.
70s. That was in the 70s. So
Okay.
yeah, but you know, the only dances I knew of were the bus stop, the Freak, and like the Robot, because we watched Saturday Night Live on Saturday
Right.
Night.
Fever?
Soul Train.
Soul Train, right? Soul Train.
What else?
Soul
Oh,
Train's
God.
amazing.
Hustle, the Hustle,
The Hustle, yeah, I do that. I know that one. That's
Breaking.
usually you need a partner, right, for the Hustle, right?
Huh? Yeah,
You need a partner for the
yeah.
Hustle, right? Yeah,
It's a disco version of salsa,
yeah, 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 yeah.
you know. So yeah, that's what it was. I wasn't a dancer at all until I started breaking.
Okay, so that was your chance to
Trash.
shine, right?
What?
That was your chance to shine.
I didn't think of it as shining. There was no. I was 10 years old.
It is
I'm
your
not.
chance to do anything.
That was look poor, you know. So we don't have many options to do
Mm.
things. Dancing's free. I
Right.
liked it. It was competitive. The vibe of it was great. So I started
That's
doing my
that's
thing.
dope, man. You started young, eh? 10 years old. That's awesome,
Yeah.
bro.
And yeah, it's just an opportunity to be competitive. And like if you think about like, you know, when people say what hip hop was meant to be or not to be,
Mhm.
if you look at everybody back then, look at their mental state, the conditions they lived in, and their age, you're gonna be like, these little kids did not rationalize a whole cultural concept. It doesn't even make sense, you know, because
Yeah, no.
especially when hip hop
It's kind of
wasn't
like when people say it's always a conspiracy theory, but I usually think stupidity is more likely than it's conspiracy.
ignorance. It's ignorance. I wouldn't even say
Yeah,
stupid, but you know, when it's something that's cultural and a result of social and economic situations,
mm.
things happen out of that organically,
Yeah, totally.
and some people are become creative within that context, and it develops into something. And eventually, 9 years later, Bambaataa started calling it hip hop.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
word existed, but as a label, an official term put out there for the community, that didn't happen until November of 1982.
right.
While
Yeah,
we
it
were in
already
bed.
existed with by 79 at least or earlier.
Oh yeah, it
I
definitely
mean,
existed, but there was no
but just not
prerequisite.
established.
There were no principles. There was no memorandum going around about you have to be down with breaking hip hop and all
Yeah,
these other things. Those are just
it's more natural than that. It's
ghetto games. Those are our
not
ghetto
like
games.
political stuff.
That's what
Yeah,
it was. It
yeah,
was our cultural ghetto games. And eventually Bambaataa had the foresight to say, hey, this could be a movement.
yeah, yeah.
But the only problem is that when they started calling hip hop a movement, there was no initial goal set, and there was no word that went out to the community and
Right.
said, hey, we're going to do this for the sake of this. Any principles that were implemented into hip hop came from what Bambaataa was gathering as Zulu Nation lessons and 5% Nation of Islam lessons.
Yeah, they were like organizing some information there so that
Yeah.
have a language about it, I guess.
Yeah. But still, I think Bambaataa was a visionary who was ahead of his time, because most of the people, including myself, we were doing fucked up shit. And that's, I
mean, you're coming from a
there's
place
no
like
way
that.
we were about peace, unity, love, and having fun. Yeah.
Peace, love, unity after it came after.
We did, it was if you look at the climate back then, it was survival. And
I mean,
with survival,
that's a rough time in New York City too. Like the roughest time actually in the 70s.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at any person my age, around my age and older, there's a lot of trauma there. There's a lot of
and it's been like that. It was like that for a long time too, I think. What's it called? Disney bought once they bought part of Times Square, it started to get cleaner and better and stuff. But
I mean, still, but
I mean, it's obviously not perfect. Well, even when I was there,
we only went there to the movies.
Yeah. Like about a dozen years ago, I was there. I lived for like a year in New York City. And I mean, even then, there's a bit of garbage there and there's a bit of shady stuff going on, but it wasn't that bad. What was crazier is like some like ghetto areas in like New Jersey, like I went to Patterson, New Jersey. I was gonna work at a factory there. And oh man, I was like, okay, I understand why they're acting like this. If it looks like this, it looks like it's in ruins, and like everything's like nobody has any money. Like, of course, you're going to be acting like that, Like some guys tried to mug me. That didn't work. I just ignored them. They went away. But like, it was fucked up. I'm like kind of feel for these people. Like, this sucks. Like, But
you also have to consider that whatever it was like over there, and I'm sure you consider it, but people became what that environment kind of in the most lower part of your nature dictated that you should be in order to survive. And that's why, like, for me, when I see someone dancing and they're faking being hard or thug or whatever, I'm looking at that funny, because we weren't faking it. We were actually about that.
Yeah, exactly.
But
if you're not willing to actually fight, like, it doesn't have the same spirit, right?
But also, but the thing is, right. And if you're just going through theatrical thuggery to try to intimidate someone, because you thought that's what our intention was when we were kids, people are just far off from that, because there were people who were dope, who were just absolutely funny as fuck. If you look at Doze dancing, Doze is always goofy and clowning around and blah, blah, blah. Was Doze a fighter? Yeah. But he didn't act like that because his natural character was being funny, Kenny was we were all into cartoons, but Kenny used to emulate things from cartoons as well, because that idea wasn't about him trying to look hard. It was, he was imitating a character that he saw in a cartoon.
Right. It's a reference, right?
Yeah. So people again think, oh, Kenny's walking with that Muggsy look because he's tough. Nah, Kenny got that from a Bugs Bunny cartoon.
Yeah.
With a character named Muggsy.
Right. I heard an interview with Dancing Doug, the first generation Bboy, and he said a lot of
here's the thing. I don't know Dancing Doug.
He said most of it was clowning. He said the first generation.
Yeah, there was that too. Now, Dancing Doug is from where?
Dancing Doug, he's a first generation Bboy. He's
where?
Like the only one we really know.
With DST in him.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, definitely. I saw him. I think he was on Mikey Icy or something like that.
And again, you're looking at very few people back then, who had a super, super short dancing career, sometimes 6 months.
Yeah. But I mean, another thing I noticed, and this is what I want to bring up when you were talking about the culture and how it was like back then, and how it was mingling between the different dancing, and then there was that moment to break and so on. That tradition pretty much stayed the same even when I was in it, because when I got into it was like 99. I actually was dancing since like 90. I was like a little kid, but like 5 years old.
Yeah, the bootleg Betty videos.
Like I did some choreography, New Jack Swing. My sister did. I did it for the school at like when I was 5 on my own solo, and I was like wearing sunglasses and total 90s.
Yeah.
New Jackson. So so I was dancing, and then breaking kind of came out, like kind of blew up again. I don't know if you know from with the Crazy Cujo in the that Run DMC versus Jason Nevins. It's like that remix. That
Yeah.
video kind of created it
Oh
like
wow, you did come in late.
yeah. So that's up and yeah. So that's when I got in and like, but it was still like that. Like it was still like you're doing the thing, then the song comes on, boom, and everybody's breaking, and everybody's dancing after that again, trying to dance with the girls and so on, right? It was like that. But when I go in now to like after leaving, not really leaving, but like just I've been around the world, you know, I've had a lot of things going on, getting married, kids and stuff, and still breaking, but not like as hardcore, not in the scene as much. But getting back into it seriously last couple of years, I'm like, it's not like that anymore. You know what I mean? I feel it's like all the hardcore dancers are with the hardcore dancers, and then like the people who dance regular, they're dancing regular, but they ain't breaking or doing anything too crazy either. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like if I go into their crowd, they're like, I'm a nutball. Like they're like, whoa, like this guy. But if I go into the other crowd, they're like, yo, this guy's too like, you know, too easy going. You know what I mean? This is like everyone's at each other's throats. You know, like so I'm like, I'm kind of feel that's missing now. You know, like
I mean, to me, as long as, well, number one, the events that are thrown right now, if everyone's trying to fall in line with the big events, and they're trying to be to gain points on national competitions, you're already dancing to the same song at every event. The DJs are not allowed to go off script when it comes to the music that they play, because they have to deal with licensing rights and no one wants to pay for that.
right.
So that makes it kind of like, all right, this is monotonous, and some of the people making the music that you're listening to actually it's kind of whack.
Yeah.
You know, it's like if you look at like how soul music came about, soul music was a reaction to something,
Right.
you know. It was a reaction to social ills. The music that's being made now for some of these events are just a reaction to not wanting to pay the money,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
So or samples or usage, or even paying someone who's part of a dope band and has a big name and say, yo, you know, let's produce this album, and you know, let's do a production deal. You'll bring some of the top artists ever or whatever, and make some new funk and soul and break beats that people can really appreciate. But you know, it would be done in from the perspective of someone who has actually lived the pain that could come across in music that makes other people feel a song, you know, which causes a b-boy or a b-girl, if they really and truly love music and connect with it, which is very hard sometimes, because if you've never lived the experience that the person has that made the music, you're never truly going to understand the pain that you're even supposed to feel, or understand, or how that the pain of that was put into that music actually made you feel good and uplifted. You know, some people will never have that vibe, which is about, you know, not only did I see you dance, but I felt what you were doing too. But the thing with that is that if everyone felt that same vibe, no one would be dope. Who do you compare
What do you
with?
mean? Because everyone would be the same, or
Well, the reason why people are dope or great is because someone else is worse than them and they're being judged based on that.
I see that. Yeah, I see that. I mean,
You know,
yeah. That's a really positive way to look at it.
I mean,
I've
that's
actually
why
found whenever
competitions
I talk to
exist.
you, even when we talk on the phone or this time, like you're very positive. Like you got a super positive view, and I appreciate that. You also made me think of like Uprock. You did it. You did a music video called
Yeah.
Uprock, and Uprock. From what I learned, and this is what I learned in the time, was to kind of circumvent getting kicked out of the club, so you could still fight via dancing with between gangs, so you don't actually kick each other's ass. You do the like dance fighting, and what do you think? What's the story for you, and what is the significance to breaking and hip hop? And
Man, you know, and that's where you got to speak to somebody older than me, because I don't like to overstep. on any kind of thing that would be considered knowledge if I didn't experience it firsthand.
Yeah.
But all I know is that it supposedly comes from the outlaw gang kind of world, but then you mix that with like the idea of people going to jams and being funny and goofing around and mocking people and imitating things that represent a fight or a joke, miming certain things. It is supposed to be warlike, but at the same time, it can be funny, you know. Uh, I, for me, I wasn't part, I'm not old enough, and I wasn't part of any group that was considered an up rock crew. Did I up rock? Yeah. Do I consider myself an up rocker? No, not at all. I know how to get down a little, have a little fun, but I'm not passionate about it. I'm not dedicated to it. I care for it, but only to a certain point.
Yeah.
To me, it just doesn't do much for me after a certain point. You gotta really be outstanding. Because a lot of up rockers do dance the same and look the same. Because it's almost
That's
like
true. I 100% agree.
this one steady format, and a lot of the characteristics of each personality it's almost as if they've all taken on their teachers' characteristics. And to me, that's bad teaching, because my thing is,
Yeah.
anyone you teach who just wants to look like you, or anyone you teach in order to just look like you want to pass on your own personal legacy as opposed to the art, you're actually hurting the art. Because
Absolutely, man.
if
I
this is
100%
about
agree.
individuality, that means that you should be teaching that person how to get in touch with who they are as a character, what their day was like, what their emotions are, and let that ride through their dance, and that will dictate their style. It's almost like a reaction to your day, because you can be pissed off, go to a battle, execute, or you can be like, I just met the girl of my dreams. I'm happy. I'm gonna smoke this dude, but I'm gonna do it on a smile with a smile on my face. And it's all legit because that's you. You're not stuck on
Yeah,
trying
yeah.
to look
It
like
has to be
someone
this
else.
character, this person who does it this way, because
Yeah.
that's the person who passed it down.
But
Yeah,
here's
and
the
actually
thing.
that's more like biting at the end of the day, right? Like if you're just taking what other people did and you ain't changing it up, you ain't making it your own, it's biting, right?
Yeah, but it's not biting if you're taught that way. You got to
Yeah, if
blame
you
the
don't know any
teacher.
better, yeah, I feel you.
Yeah. So here's the thing. A perfect example of that was, well, here's the good shit about it though. That means that your style is also impactful. It makes you
That's true. It's
legendary, but
relevant.
not your students. All it does is make people think about you when they see your students. And then, but the thing is that like when Remind was first out there and everyone was imitating Remind, and he used to do that thing where he used to do that with his head, and other people started doing that.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, like, why? That's Remind. Like,
Yeah,
I'm looking at
that's
you and I'm
that's like a
thinking of
bite.
Remind when I should be looking at you and thinking about you, and you should be making me feel the music even more.
Yeah, when I was getting into it, is like nobody wanted to look like anybody. Like we had to learn like some of the same moves and foundation and everything as we know, but like we all trying to like as we develop, try to like look like our own thing completely, and I feel nowadays if you're too much like that, sometimes people are like, that's not even breaking, because everybody looks so much the same now compared to before. I feel
It depends on
also
which way you're looking.
if you're a little bit original, they think you're very original. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying there isn't super
Mm.
original people now, but I'm saying that it's not like when like went back then. Maybe I'm looking at through rose-colored glasses or something, but you know what I'm saying? But
Yeah, that's very easy to do.
yeah. Oh, I wanted to ask you while we're on this. Back then, I know there's dynamic rockers. You're doing elbow chair stuff, like power moves, and you were doing like elbow
No,
chair sort of
we started
footwork.
power. I started power moves. Dynamic Rockers wasn't doing. Here's how Dynamic Rockers came about.
Okay.
I think they may have been a rocking group first, right?
Oh, like a up rock. Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so here's the thing. Before I met Ken Swift he got down with us. Well, actually, when I met Ken Swift, uh, I battled him at this jam in his school, and he didn't really have many moves. So then we set up a battle with me and Little Crazy Legs versus Young City Boys, which was me and him versus 7 people.
Okay.
And we battled in a place called United States of America. We did that in Queens. And when we battled them, we were like, oh shit, this is dope. We want to come here a lot. We want to hang out here. And as we were going there every week, we try to go, not every week, but we try to go there pretty often when we had the money. We go there, there's roller skating. They had this actual like bridge that you could cross over to get to a center area that had a dance floor, concession stand, and all that. And so it was like a club inside a skating rink. So you can go there, battle, do your thing. Yeah, say, yo, I'll meet you over here. All right, cool. Like in B Street. Roxy's back.
Yeah.
So we started teaching the other people that were around there when we would hang out with them. They'd be like, yo, show us this move, show us that move. So we're going there for like 6 months. And then all of a sudden, they say, yo, we want to battle you. Like, you want to battle us?
They take your moves, cracks behind your back, and then want to battle you with him.
Yeah, so I'm like, yo, we taught you. What are you talking about? And so
that's when the beef started, eh?
Huh?
Is that when the beef started? I'm not saying is that dramatic.
No, beefs are over different things. That was street shit. But
yeah, street shit. Okay.
But the thing is that Dynamic Rockers. So Rocksteady. We were already working on the Star Wars documentary,
right?
And we were going to do an interview.
That's the first movie you're in, right?
Yeah, it's the first documentary. So I told Henry, hey, if you're gonna film us, why don't you film us while we're battling this group in Queens? So that's how Dynamic got into Style Wars, because I told Henry, like, come film us, we're gonna go battle. And that's so but then so to me, as far as I'm concerned, on the breaking side, when I first went to that place and those same people were in that roller skating rink, not one of them was doing what we were doing at all.
You were innovative in that sense, you guys.
Well, I mean, I came from the Bronx, so I had, even traveling around Manhattan, I had more than a lot of people around Manhattan, because you gotta remember, it's still early on and it's just trickling into other parts of New York. It was already in the Bronx for maybe at least 5 years.
Okay. I think it started in the early 70s, right? It originally started like early 70s, right? Yeah.
So they say.
Yeah. So like that's kind of what we get.
Yeah, I could still rock with that. If we're gonna say, if I was gonna pick a year, I would say, or a time period, circa 74.
Oh, right, 74.
Like when you start cross-referencing and you start looking at what's possible and what's not possible, you're like, I don't know. We shouldn't. I personally don't think we should have an absolute date. We could pick a month, but there's too many contradicting stories, interviews by the same people.
Some people's memories might be foggy too.
Well, the thing is that when I think people forget that they've done interviews early on in their lives when there was no need to not clout chase, but embellish.
It wasn't established. There was no clout to chase.
Right. So everyone was just telling the story. So I have a Kool Herc story. His first interview, that's completely different from what he says now.
Yeah, I bet. That's funny.
So
the stories get romanticized over time, I guess.
And it depends on the agenda, because if somebody has an agenda, and that's a whole other controversy. There are a lot of people with different agendas.
Absolutely. You gotta be careful. Take things with a grain of salt out there sometimes.
And even my thing is, like, for some of the pioneers, when they're trying to be absolute about things, I'm thinking again, like, yo, my dude, you were a kid. You got no notes. Even most of the flyers that were put out back then, no one realized that they can be cross-referenced later on with a calendar.
Right.
Because if you say Saturday, November 26th, I was at this place. And then if you look up how many Saturdays in the 70s, November 26th, how many were there?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, that was actually 78. because there's no other Saturday, November 26th, in all of the 70s. So then you start to narrow things down. Like if you're doing like real work and cross-referencing.
Yeah, it's a lot of work to doing that historical stuff for sure.
Yeah, but I think a lot of people are so comfortable with their stories that
whatever's popular, right?
It's almost controversial to go against what's already established. And I truly feel that all you have to say is like, yo, you know what? I wasn't trying to mislead you. I was just young, and that's how I remembered it.
Yeah.
My bad. No ill intention. And that's if it's legitimately no ill intention. And I think because everyone was so young, we should be allowed some leeway. And none of us were taking notes. So that's why for me, I'd rather say circa, even to when I started dancing, I could even question that myself.
Yeah.
I could question that myself. From when Rocksteady started. I've heard Jimmy D say it started 78. I got him on video saying it started 77.
Right. Yeah.
So,
I mean, it's a little bit foggy there, but
it's
we get around approximation.
Exactly.
I was gonna say we're gonna wrap it up because we only got a few minutes left here on here, but I just wanted to say a couple of things about this. Yeah, so basically, like, now that it's all established, it's quite different and stuff. And I know a lot of the big events, not all of them, some are quite good. Like you seen Freestyle Session, that was quite good. They've been playing some of the real music on there, which was nice, I guess.
I don't really watch. I've never.
Okay. Well, I just want to say, like it's been all established and stuff, and it's different. But at the same time, because it's so established, now everybody legitimizes it more. It has a lot more credibility. So when we do stuff from the community level, like from the ground up locally, and just what we can do to represent this culture to our best, now it has more legitimacy than it did before because of the establishment, without us necessarily having to be
it
part of it.
depends on whose eyes are we considering the idea of being legitimate in front of.
No, I just mean just like the masses.
Commercially.
Yeah, I just mean the people, like, you've heard about it. It has more it's not just like, oh, they're doing that thing from the 80s, or no, this is some legitimate shit right here. This is fucking the sport.
100%.
Like, you know what I mean? So, but if I'm doing my local mom and pop version of it, now it has more legitimacy than it did before it was seen that way, I think. And that's a positive side.
But here's a problem with that, and I'll be fast, that so many people are so caught up in this competition of going to the Olympics, and they're dreaming all that stuff, and they're being drawn to all this, the hoopla of these events. It would be nice if those people who throw those big events say, hey, we are not the end all of this discussion. 100%. Please support those smaller events, because that's where the real talent comes from. That's where the homegrown organic vibe comes from. That's where you get that kid who just wants to have a form of escapism and have a good time and doesn't care about the Olympics. End up chasing something bigger, we don't know, but let's support that real organic context of a hip-hop environment that really breeds the style and flavor that is waiting to just come out of that person who actually possesses it.
Do you think there's hope for and I really hope so, that we can bring the elements back again together? Because I feel they've been splitting apart, and I really wish there was a way we could get them back together, because that's where I think a lot of the creativity comes from. We only got about a minute.
Yeah, I think it takes each of those platforms that are legitimate to point people in those directions, because if people are looking at those people as the big names,
they got to start doing it. They got to start putting those.
Because a lot of them do know. Like if you look at Russell Peters is straight up hip hop head. He continuously talks about hip hop.
He gets the comedy.
He knows his shit.
Yeah.
Russell Peters got into entertainment because of breaking.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. Yeah, so we got to keep that up. So then the everyday person, there might be a real good talent in there that never come out unless they have that connection there and it's relatable. All right, anyway, thank you so much. Yeah.
They may not have the means for the bigger platform. So let's support the smaller ones.
Exactly. There may not be any other way to learn about it, right?
Yeah. All right, my dude.
Thank you so much, man.
Thank you.
Here. Mad respect, mad love. Peace, man. Take care.